Yo, I literally hit live right when Benji said go live early. I always go live a couple minutes early. Come on. Of course. Let's see when it actually registers, though. It usually takes a while to register on the old YouTube. Fire it up, YouTube. Do. How you guys doing? Welcome. I'm pretty sure I'm live. I just haven't seen it yet on my side. It'll happen, hopefully. It was a scheduled live, so there should be on this link. Oh, there we go. Okay. I had to refresh for some reason. Sweet. What's going on? Hello. How are you? Lots to talk about today. What's up, iFOMO? What's up, Walrus? Is this a Gen Con stream? It is not. It is not. You're going to have to do your own stream to go over Gen Con, Walrus. I would love to hear about how your Gen Con stream was or how your Gen Con weekend was. What's up, Pooping Turtle? How's it going? Welcome. Greninja buyout stream. The English one or the Japanese one? Or the promo or the one from the set? I have no idea. Who's buying out Greninjas? Are people buying out the promo? How cheap is the promo at this point? I'd be surprised if it's that expensive, but the English promo, gotcha. I was gonna say if anyone's buying out it's $8. Yeah, that makes sense. Will he be late taking bets? I'm live right now, dude. Refresh, brother. What's up, Dan? Welcome. How's it going? All right, so I should probably talk about how my weekend was before I bring people on, if people want to hop on. That, or we could just take questions or whatever. But it was a whirlwind, man. So the plan was to drive out there Thursday night. I had booked a night at the hotel, and other people like Ray and Dan and I think Retro were all getting in Thursday night. And then all four of us were going to ride out in my car to go out to Rusty's and have a good time on Friday. And all of that ended up not happening the way that we all thought it was going to happen, because my car broke down on the way to Charlotte. Basically, I was an hour outside of Charlotte and my car broke down. So that sucked. So I pull off the road. I get into this hotel. The car gets towed to a shop, and they're working on it the next morning on Friday. Ray has to then rent a car so that the other guys can get out to Rusty's on Friday. I'm not sure if I'm even going to make it to Rusty's at this point. So I was feeling pretty, shitty about that. It's basically kind of what happened to Mason last year during Charlotte. Was his van broke down. He unfortunately wasn't able to make it to Rusty's while and his van was trying to get. I forget if they got towed to Charlotte, how they got to Charlotte, but they got all their shit to Charlotte eventually. But yeah, it was just a kind of a mess on their end as well. Luckily for me, in the morning, they were able to fix the car. So I got the car fixed in the morning. I got to Rusty's around, when did I get there? 2 o'clock maybe? 1:30, 2 o'clock, somewhere around there. And we hung out at Rusty's until, man, I don't know, like 8 or 9 o'clock, something like that. So we were at Rusty's for a good, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours. I left a little earlier than everyone else because I was worried about my car making it back to Charlotte because it was having some issues. And it's still having issues. So the car is still having issues the entire weekend. I was basically praying that the car would turn over every time I turned it on. I was like, please, please, please actually start. And it did, but man, it is making some horrible noises and all sorts of nonsense. So potentially tomorrow, I may be getting a new car tomorrow, which would be super awesome. I'm really excited about it. I have a car picked out. My mom actually works at a car dealership, so probably get something from that location, something that looks really cool. So I'm pretty excited about that because my car is 15 years old. It doesn't have a lot of mileage and it is a Toyota. So I probably could figure out how to fix it, send it to another shop, but it's the same issue has happened twice now in the last like 4 months, and each time it's like a $400 repair with two tows. It's just been a kind of a nonsense thing at this point, and I can afford a car, so probably going to go tomorrow and get a car. So I'm pretty excited about that. So now that the car stuff's over with, five or six of us stayed in an Airbnb, and the Airbnb was cool. It was a big house, probably a mile away from the convention center, super close. It's like a 5-minute drive and a 15-minute walk or something like that. And big house, old house. You could tell it was old. It was old. It was big. Um, it was just a nice, like everyone kind of hung out in the evenings in the living rooms and just chilled. And then anyone just went to bed whenever they were feeling tired. I will say, I don't know about the other guys, but I thought it was warm in there. Like it was warm in there. Um, so I had trouble sleeping because usually I keep my apartment like super cold. Like right now, it's probably like 69 degrees in here. So the Airbnb was warm at night. Uh, so I had trouble sleeping. So for Chicago, I'll probably do the recommended hotel, but I know that there's talk of possibly, putting together an Airbnb situation again, but we'll have to see about that. I like having like my own room that I can temperature regulate and all that stuff, and I feel like I get better sleep that way. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so the Airbnb was cool. Let's see. Friday, obviously we hung out at Rusty's. We played basketball, so you're probably going to see some footage at some point of a basketball game that took place at Rusty's. Basically, I drove in, walked down to like Rusty's outside basketball court, and we just played like a 6-on-6 or 5-on-5 with subs basketball game, and it was 96 degrees outside. It was ridiculously hot. I am ridiculously out of shape, but it was fun. It was fun anyway. So after that, it started to rain, so we went inside of Rusty's office, like Pokemon business house, essentially, and we got to see all of his like collection. I got to see all of his inventory. Basically, he asked if we all wanted if we wanted to see some cool stuff. Of course, we're like, yeah, of course we want to see some cool stuff. So he walked us around his like inventory space, and then we go into this back like room area, and he pulls this random card out from behind this random box, just randomly in the back. It's in basically like a graded card shoebox in the back of wherever, and he pulls out the freaking Raichu, the pre-release Raichu, and just hands it to Basic Trainer, and just walks away. So me and I forget who else was in there. Me and Basic and I don't know who it was, but we just passed around the pre-release Raichu for a little bit, just looking at it. That was crazy. And then he pulled down all of his like Charizard collection, all his Charizard like PSA 10s and stuff. It's like the amount of money that I had in my hands at points over the weekend was insane. Like there's a picture of me holding a complete 2016 Pikachu trophy set that Charlie had brought. We passed around what is it, like an astronaut Pikachu, and all of like the art whatever those cards are. Like it was insane. It was insane. So all of that was very cool. The first day that we had the convention, we got there bright and early, got our passes from Dan, and then went in. And Saturday I thought was good. I had a fairly rough buyout experience that we can talk about at some point, or maybe we won't talk about. But I had a fairly rough buyout experience from yeah, just a Instagram streamer guy, I guess, that goes around, does buyouts at Collectacon. So that was pretty rough. But overall, I had a really good experience. Saturday, I felt like the sales were pretty good. I was happy about that. And Sunday was similar. I didn't have probably as many sales on Sunday, like overall, but it was consistently good for sales, I think, on Sunday. In the buyout experience. Yeah. So yeah, I think overall sales were fine. I felt like I did quite well. I think at the end of the day, it was close to $7,000 in sales, which is pretty solid for me for a Collecticon, especially not having. I think Charlotte last year was definitely slower for me. The only reason why I came out on top last year was because I had a bunch of vintage packs to sell to loose packs. And that really helped make up for the lack of selling that happened last year at Charlotte. This year at Charlotte, it was mostly people buying slabs, people buying singles. I had multiple kind of buyouts from larger people. Um, but yeah, it was it was good. There was some it's interesting the range of buyouts that happen from like streamers and such or like companies, right? So I had some people that came in that were like, our shipment from Japan didn't make it this week, so we're looking to buy a bunch of Japanese like secret rares and stuff. Can we go through your binders and basically pick a bunch out and pay like 80%. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, go for it. So they made like this big stack of stuff, and I got their contact information in case I ever have, an abundance of like Japanese secret rares and good stuff that I want to sell to them in the future. So that was cool. I gained a contact out of that, and they bought at what I thought was a really good price. 80% out of a binder is pretty solid. And then I had another group of guys that came in, wanted to buy a bunch of PSA 10 like modern Charizards, and they were willing to do that for it was around like 83, 85%, something like that. They didn't haggle on price. They thought all my prices were super fair. So I had some really good experiences with some buyers, and I had some really kind of negative interactions with others. Um, so yeah, it depends. It depends. Just make sure that you have something in mind and you don't get like mind ninjutsued into agreeing to something that you don't actually want to agree to. I don't know. I've been trying to like figure out what happened during the transaction that I didn't like. Like how did I end up where I ended up? It was like a master class in manipulation. It was impressive. It was impressive. I kind of wish the transaction had been recorded so that I could like study it because it was pretty wild. It was pretty insane. But yeah, overall solid. Sunday night. So I think we left around like 3 from the convention. We didn't stay the whole time. I think the convention ended at 5, so we left at 3 on Sunday, and we went to Wonder's house, Pokemon Wonder. Justin, he had us over. He invited a bunch of people that I think that he'd had on the podcast at that point, and then a bunch of other people kind of showed up. Oh, I'll talk about. Do I want to talk about like? Okay, this is going to be an honest stream, and what I'm going to say is there are things that frustrated me over the course of the weekend. I don't believe and it's really anyone's fault apart from the buyout situation. That guy's an asshole, and I'm never going to sell to him ever again. Okay. And there's another person involved in that situation that I probably won't ever sell to ever again. So there's probably 2 people out of that situation that I'll probably never sell to ever again, no matter what they offer me. But there was one other situation that felt kind of shitty that I don't really think was anyone's fault, but we'll talk about that after I kind of finish the rest of the good stuff. All right. So we went over to Wonder's house. It was amazing. Like it was insane. So Pokey Chef spent Friday and Saturday, I think, at Gen Con, and then he flew in Sunday to cook for everybody. So Pokey Chef is I think the executive chef at one of the locations for where we actually ate dinner on Saturday night, which was Capitol Grill. Capitol Grill is a kind of a high-end steak restaurant, and he had this amazing spread, like all this food that they put together. I don't know when they actually started cooking, him and Wonder's wife, but they killed it, knocked it out of the park. We got there at like 4 o'clock and they were already prepping stuff and cooking and stuff. But I think we ate around like 9 or 9:30. Like it took a long time to get all this food done for all these people. And there was probably between like 20 or 30 of us at Wonder's house just hanging out and stuff while Chef was in the kitchen cooking for like 6 hours. Like the dude is a beast. The dude is an absolute beast. So, and the food was amazing, absolutely amazing. I have posted some food photos in the Discord. If anyone's interested, you can join the Discord. I may show them at some point, or maybe post them on the YouTube or Instagram or something like that. But yeah, Chef knocked it out of the park. The food was incredible. I dare say some people said it was better than the actual meal that we had at Capitol Grill. I don't know if I would go that far. They were both incredible meals. I couldn't have asked for anything crazier than that. So then we were chilling there for a long time. And what else? Wonder brought in live music. We had freaking live music while we were hanging out in Wonder's backyard. He brought in like live. There was a lady that showed up with a guitar and some music equipment and stuff, and she set up and played music for probably 2-3 hours while we were hanging out. It was crazy. Yeah, it is so welcoming and hospitable, and like just Wonder is awesome. Wonder is awesome. Chef is awesome. Everyone this weekend was awesome. So I'm very happy that I made it, that the car made it so that I could go to Rusty's. That would have sucked to miss. And thank you to Rusty and his wife for having us out and hosting us. And then obviously thank you very much to Wonder and his wife for having us and Chef, of course, for the meal, for having us out and doing that. It was incredible. It was super cool. And Wonder actually did a video, and I don't want to spoil a video, but Wonder did a video where he asked everyone a question. Everyone that showed up to hang out at his house, he asked everyone a question. And I think that'll be a cool video. If he can figure out the audio, because I think the background sound's going to be really loud. Hopefully he's able to edit and figure out the audio, but I think that's going to be really good for everyone. Yeah. I think it's going to be a cool video. So obviously we missed a lot of people. Walrus, I wish you'd have been there. Same with Nick and Mason and all the amazing people that weren't able to go because they had other commitments to Gen Con and stuff. Sounds like everyone that went to Gen Con had a great time as well. So, but hopefully we see a lot of you guys in Chicago, because Chicago is the next big one coming up. If you guys are in Chicago, most likely, if you follow me or any of the content creators adjacent to me, I think we're all going to be in Chicago. So that's going to be very fun. Also, a lot of people came up to me at the booth at Chicago to either take pictures or to just say how much they enjoy my content and stuff. And I really appreciate that a lot. That was really cool. I've always had that. I've had that experience before, and it's always so weird to me that random people, while I'm walking to the bathroom at a convention, see me and their first thought is, yelling my username and running over and wanting to take a picture with me. Like, that's crazy. I would never have expected that to ever happen in my life, no matter how big my YouTube channel ever gets. That's not something that like makes sense to me, but I appreciate it. It's really cool. It makes me feel even more like reinvigorated to put out good content and to make things better and make sure that I'm providing for the people who enjoy it. So that's really cool as well. And if you did that, if you came by and I met you, that was really awesome. Walking with Pokemon. Yeah, that might have been you. That might have been you that caught me as I was going to the bathroom. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It's super awesome. It's super, super awesome. I'm glad I was able to meet you. All right, let's go through chat before we no, no, you're good, dude. You're good. Let's go through chat before I talk about the negative things that happen. I'll go into detail on some things. All right, we got Maki. Hello, how's it going? iFOMO's here. Is this a Gen Con stream? No. Pooping Turtle's here. This is not a Greninja buyout stream. Dan is also here. Hoot Hoot needed to refresh. JavaAkuma the pillar. I guess the whole time, even when I was like even getting invited there, I mean I was obviously it's so weird because I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. You know, when you're just surrounded by people who do what you do, but they do it at the scale of like 10 to 100 times, you feel very like, why am I here? Why am I here? I definitely had that feeling a couple times of like, why am I here? But I'm glad I was there. I'm glad I was invited because it was super awesome. And I got to meet, Rusty. And I mean, I've met Rusty in the past, but I got to spend more time with some awesome people at Rusty's house. So, but there was definitely a lot of why am I here last weekend. So, let's see. How's it feel to have overtaken Dan's pillar status? No, Dan is definitely still the pillar for sure. Dan's right. Collectacon had CEOs to mingle and learn from. Oh, true. True. Oh no, buyout experience. Yes, we will talk about that. We got Mr. Kite. Hello. We got Nan P. Hello. Buyout. There were heroes, there were villains, and there was betrayal. True. Let's see. How's it going? 151. Let's see. I heard the IRS is going to be walking the Collectacon floor soon. Good times ahead. Oh yeah, excited for that. Let's see. What's up, Joaquin? What's up, Checks? 2xing a bit. What's up, X-Ray? What's up, Retro? Going through. What's up, Goose? What's up, Crawdad? Advice for getting an invite to Rusty's? I honestly have no idea. I mean, I guess just I don't know. Just make it known that you're going to Charlotte, and then hope and pray. I don't know. I don't know what to say, dude. I don't know. I was the guy with you. Oh yeah, Dan was in there. That's true. Yeah, Dan was in the room. So it was me and Dan in Basic. That's right. Nice to meet you as well, Pokemage. Thanks for stopping by the booth. Welcome in. 5,000 subscribers coming up. What's up, Taiko? We had one short do quite well on TikTok recently. I think it's at like 5,000 views. So that's, I mean, for TikTok, TikTok can be crazy, but yeah, it was good. It was good. Dan again with the eyes. All right, I'm caught up on chat. Okay, let's talk about potentially some of the negatives. So, the first thing, who is at Rusty's that shouldn't have been there? Oh, now nobody was there that shouldn't have been there. No, nobody was there that shouldn't have been there. I am not the person to gatekeep at all for that. There were some people there that I didn't know at all. Like I was not familiar with that I am now familiar with. So that was cool. Got to meet some new people. Odds on Ray scamming the homie on the buyout. No, it wasn't Ray. It wasn't Ray. Sus pause. There was someone. No, what are you talking about? No, everyone who went to Rusty's it was fine. It was fun. It was very fun. I don't I can't think of anybody that shouldn't have been there. I'm just trying to think of everybody. There were some people that left pretty early. Like Rux, I feel like Ruxin were Ruxin and the other guy the first. I think they were the first ones to leave, and I didn't really get to introduce myself to Ruxin. They kind of hung out. They kind of did their own thing. I felt like maybe because I got there late and they got there earlier than I did, but I didn't get to kind of meet or introduce myself to Ruxin. So that was unfortunate. He was probably the only person that I didn't like meet. But yeah. Okay, so the buyout on Saturday. Some of you guys probably know this guy, but I'm not going to say his name. If his name happens to show up in chat, that's what it is. I'm not going to say it because, it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, I agreed to the transaction. So whether or not I felt good about it is a different thing. Now I know about this person, and I will be much more firm when it comes to what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not willing to accept for prices and negotiations. But I was uninitiated in this person, so I did not know, and I did not feel great at the end of the transaction. But I will explain how it kind of happened. So the guy walked up and he saw a lot of the slabs that I had, and he said, would I be willing to negotiate on a bunch of slabs? And I told him, yeah, I've sold some kind of groups of slabs to people already at around like 80%. And so I think, see, I'm trying to like fully understand what happened because it cannot happen in the future. It was ridiculous. So I think he started to make a pile, and he started to, of course, scan with fucking, what is that stupid app that people are using now? What is that stupid rip-off app that people are using? What is it called again? Oh, Alt. So he started using Alt, and he said that he was going to use Alt Average. And right when he said he was going to use Alt Average is right when I should have shut it down and said, fuck that. I'm good. Walk away. I'm not interested. If you're going to start using Alt Average on my mid-era like PSA 10s, I'm not interested. I should have just pieced out. But instead, we kind of kept going. I told him, like, if the alt average price comes up and it's significantly different than what I have, I'm not interested. Like, so there was some stuff that he scanned that he then set aside because he was like, okay, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in that. So he started negotiating prices on the slabs, right? So a lot of slabs, maybe it's like $170. He said he would do 150 or 100 or let's say like $85. He said he would do 75, like that type of stuff. So he was going through and he was saying, oh, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And then we had a stack. I was like, oh, okay, great. And then he was like, okay, and on top of all this, I'll do 70%. So he negotiated the prices down for all the slabs, built like a tower of slabs. He said that he was going to like buy a bunch. So he had like he picked out like $3,000 worth of slabs. And then on top of negotiating the prices down, he then wanted to give me 70%. So he probably got like 55 to 65% for a lot of the slabs that he bought. And then of course, halfway through our like deal, he started asking whether or not I had any other really high-end stuff behind the table, because I'm sure if I had more high-end stuff behind the table, since he was getting 55 to 65%, he would have bought all that stuff too. So whatever, right? It was some it was It was dumb. I shouldn't have done it. It was stupid. Now, I probably still made money because a lot of this was stuff that I graded myself. A lot of this was like mid-era PSA 10s. A lot of this was kind of low cost, um, high margin type of stuff that usually would have taken a little bit longer for me to sell probably on eBay. But at the same time, it was pretty annoying to only get like 55 to 65 um 55 to 65% at the end of the day. So I would I would say that um I wasn't too happy about it. Okay. And then I will say another person saw all this happen, actually facilitated part of the transaction by telling this person what he should buy from me, or what he should continue to pick out from my selection, and then walked away and came back and told me that they wanted to buy a whole bunch of stuff at 70%, which wouldn't have been 70%. Someone who I kind of felt like was a friend at that point. And it was really frustrating that that person would come back and basically see this guy essentially get the deal that he did and see that I was definitely not happy with the situation. And then straight up just ask me for the exact same percentage off and deal. So I basically said that I was not going to sell to them, not interested, and I'm good. And then they walked away. And I'm not even sure if we talked at all past that point. Maybe we did a little bit I don't know. But yeah, I wasn't too happy after that transaction with either the person who bought for me or the person who came up after looking for the exact same deal, seeing that I was not very happy with what happened. So, yeah. So that was unfortunate, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, I I said yes. So yeah. Sell at 70%. Well, that's the problem, right? Is I didn't sell at 70%. I would have been happy to sell at 70%. I didn't sell at 70%. I probably sold at 55%. That's the problem. Because all my cards were negotiated down, and on top of that, discounted 70%. So yeah. And my prices were very fair, by the way. They were combinations between last solds and um, low list, and they were only quote unquote wrong or high because the person was using alt average, which nobody should ever accept. If anyone comes up to your table and says, "Can I buy a bunch of stuff? I'm going to scan and do alt average." You should take their phone and throw it across the room, or throw it in the toilet, or throw it somewhere, because alt average is only going to be good for you if they are on cards that are super modern, that sell all the time, that don't have as much a discrepancy between auction and buy it now. Because the average price is just all the different sales, and then boom, in the middle is the average. So that includes auctions, that includes PWCC, that includes eBay. As far as I'm concerned, that includes all those different things, and then it smacks dabs it right in the middle. And usually it's not super accurate. If you're going for like, if you look at like the last four, like last solds for certain cards, and you look at alt average, it's usually on the low side. So as soon as he said, "I'm going to use alt average," I should have told him to go away. But it is what it is. It's a classic tactic. Just keep bundling and adding things for less and less. Yeah, that was basically what it was. Yeah. I mean, alt is great for certain things. You can see like it's almost like 130 point, where you can see like all the last solds for a particular item, and then you can come to a conclusion that way. But some people use at the actual like alt average price, which is a price, like I think it's an average price, like I said, of all the different like sales, no matter if they're auction, no matter if they're PWCC, no matter if they're eBay, no matter, like, and then it figures out a price with that. So I do think it's better to use it the way that Dan's saying that he uses it, which is to view recent sales, all listed out like in a particular way, but using the average alt value, or because it gives like there's a high price and a low price, and then there's a price in the middle that it chooses as like the alt value. But usually the alt value compared to last solds is low, quite low, from what I've seen. It's more accurate on cards that are constantly selling around a similar price, like, PSA 10 modern Charizards or whatever. Like, you're going to get a pretty accurate alt value for those types of cards where there's a ton of them. They're transacting all the time. But for cards like mid-era stuff, for stuff that doesn't sell often, you could have a big swing, like I talk about all the time, where it's like, I can sell a buy it now for 170, and the last auction could have gone for 120, and then the alt value is going to be like somewhere low in the middle of that, right? So it's yeah, it's not great. It's not great to comp with, in my opinion. Let's see. I only sell to people that don't comp me. The only other people that actually like checked my prices, and this was great. They checked low list on eBay. They're like, let me look at low list on eBay, and that's how I price my stuff anyway. So it wasn't that big a deal. And then they paid 83% or whatever on a bunch of PSA 10 modern Charizards, and I was like, absolutely, like that's amazing. I'll do that. Awesome. But yeah, this person was the only person that yeah, I'm not gonna ever sell to again, because goddamn, it was brutal. But yeah, I wish I had recorded that. I wish that my so unfortunately I'm not going to have any buyer POV or seller POV content, because I screwed up and my video recorder thingy didn't work the way that I was hoping that it was going to. So unfortunately I'm not going to have any of that. Hopefully I'll have someone at the local show, because I have figured out a different way of doing it so that I don't have to worry about battery life, or like charging issues. So it should be fine from there. But yeah, how's it going, Mason? Welcome, by the way. Was it Ray in a V-neck? No, someone already put in the chat who it was, but so yeah. So yeah, but I would have loved to have it recorded so that I could go back and watch it and see. I think there was a point in which we were so far along that I just wanted it to be over with, because I knew I was kind of like, I knew that the stuff that I was selling, I was still making money, but it wasn't as much money as I would have liked. So I felt bad about it. But at the same time, it's like, I was so far in by the time I figured out that these negotiated prices weren't including the 70% that he was talking about, that I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm too nice, where like he's also been there for a long time and we've been doing this for a long time. So part of me is just like, fuck it. Like, just get it over with, slap the 70% and leave. But I shouldn't have done that. I should have just told him, once I figured out that the 70% was going to be on top of the negotiated rate, I should have said absolutely not, like not interested. And I should have just told him to leave, because yeah, that's what I should have done. But let's see. Charlotte was great, actually. It was fine. Like there was that one sale that sucked, but overall it was great. There were a lot of people really interested in all the raw stuff. I had 4 binders, so people were going through and filling out their art rare collections. They were yeah, I mean, there was a lot of different collectors that came by too. Like I had I would say like 3-ish buyouts, but then I had a bunch of people who were just looking to collect stuff come by and buy a bunch of stuff at the booth, which was great. It was way better than last Charlotte. Way better than last Charlotte. So I was pretty happy with the show overall, how much money I made. It sucked that my car broke down. That's something that I can't really, help. But yeah, I thought it was pretty okay. How big of a steak did you end up buying at the end of the weekend? So we went to a steak restaurant. You guys are great with these what do you call them? Transitions. So let's talk about the next thing that I felt like kind of wasn't cool. Kind of wasn't cool. Okay. And it's not that big a deal. I don't want to make it seem like it's that big a deal, but I know that other people are also frustrated with this, but I understand that it was probably the easiest way to do this. Saturday night we went for dinner. And once again, Poke Chef, thank you so much. The dinner experience at um at Capitol Grill was incredible. Like the dinner that we had, you picked out a salad and an entree, which was a steak essentially. I think you could get chicken and I think there was a fish option, but I think everyone pretty much got a steak. I got this insane like Kona coffee rub steak with shallot butter. Oh my god, it was so good. And then you get a salad. You get to pick a salad, one of like 2 or 3 salads, and then you got all the different appetizers come out and you share them amongst the table. All the desserts come out and you share them amongst the table. All the sides come out and you share them amongst the table. So you got to choose like I don't know, like 12 to 15 different like I got to try like 12 to 15 different things um at Capitol Grill, which was awesome. And a lot of stuff was like lobster mac and cheese and lobster crab cakes and calamari and like it was insane. It was good stuff. And luckily, Ray doesn't like lobster, so that meant more lobster stuff for me. And Larry is allergic to crab, so that meant more crab stuff for me. So I was at like the perfect table for for the seafood to come out because yeah, 2 of the people at the table couldn't eat a lot of the seafood stuff that came out. So I was in the perfect situation for all that. Um so I think there was like I'm going to say there's like 30 of us because it had to be there was about 6 at every table and I think we filled like 5 tables. So there was probably about 30 of us between 25 and 30. 25 people. So there's a lot of us. So this next part is frustrating, but I understand that when a check comes out and it's all calculated together and it's for 25 different people, I understand why it was split the way that it was split, but at the same time, it was a little frustrating given that, some people probably didn't drink because they didn't want to spend the money on booze and instead uh so what happened was everyone was going to pay the same amount. I think it was like $120 for, and then added on to that was whether or not you were drinking. So I think a lot of people went and uh, didn't drink, didn't want to drink because they didn't want to spend the extra money on it, or they didn't drink or whatever. Like I didn't drink the whole weekend just because right now I'm not drinking. So it was a way for people to save a little bit of money on an already expensive dinner. So the check came out and I think it was, I'm assuming that it was totaled all 25 people on the same check. So instead of figuring out how to split the check 25 different ways, they basically just added it all up and split it in and divided it by 25. They added it all up, added the tip, and then they divided it by 25. Now, the problem with that is that if you didn't drink, some people drank, I would assume a lot, and the drinks there were expensive. So if you didn't drink, basically you paid an extra. Let me see. If you did a 20% tip, which I think they did a 30% tip on top of, but if you did a 20% tip, it would be probably like 100 and let's say $150. At the end of the day, they split it 25 ways and everyone had to pay $207, $206 or $207. So for people that didn't drink, it was an extra $57 or no. Yeah. It was an extra like $57 basically subsidizing the people who did drink at the um at the restaurant. So yeah. So I felt like that it's not that big a deal. Like at the end of the day, I really enjoyed the meal and everything, but you know, it it was a little frustrating to do it that way. It wasn't what I expected to happen. I think what everyone expected to happen was that we would all get separate checks. Um, but I understand why they would add it all up and bring it out as one check. I think the problem. Let me see. Bye bye. Um, I think the problem is like I don't know. It's not really that big of a problem. Uh, but yeah, I think it made some people feel bad that they drank as much as they did because they didn't realize it was going to be split that way, and then it made some people feel frustrated because they didn't drink at all, and now they're paying like a lot more. Um, I requested from the manager for table checks, and they wouldn't. That would have been nice, or even if they did like even if they just separated out the people that drank, the people that didn't, and then split it the amount of like um I don't know, but they needed the info before the meal. Yeah, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming anybody who was there or who like facilitated the final like transaction piece of it. I'm just it was a little frustrating from like a yeah um but yeah, it's not that big a deal, and I don't blame anyone that was with us because if that was information that needed to be put out there earlier, then it's not really on anybody. We just didn't know. So um yeah. Again, I'm not blaming anybody for anything. Um let's see. I've been kind of keeping an eye on things. I think we're pretty caught up. No, it's bullshit. You should be upset. No, it's fine. At the end of the day, it was an amazing meal, and whether it was $200 or $150, like it was pretty solid. It was pretty solid. Um, so it was definitely worth it. Um, so yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I feel like I covered everything though. I feel like there wasn't really anything else that. What the hell are the cats doing? Hello? What are you doing? Oh, she found her food bag. I think other than that, there wasn't really anything. I mean, there wasn't anything else. Did you do any buying? No, I didn't buy anything. I didn't have any time to buy. It was a busy weekend for me. I know that it wasn't great for other people, but it was busy for me. It was definitely um it was pretty much busy the whole time. I did a couple trades, but nothing crazy. I gave out some cards to some kids. Um I didn't buy anything though. So I just really didn't have any time to walk around and look for anything. I know Dan on the second day, he got bought out on the first day. So the second day he walked around. I don't know if he bought anything or not, but I know that there were some people that just walked the floor and didn't actually vend this time. Um, so yeah, yeah. But yeah, otherwise, I feel like it was good. Have you done your Japan buys? Yes, I have. I've spent too much money. I've spent too much money. Yes, I have though. I have been buying on the coupon. Biggest advice to give for a first time vendor. I think Ernie and I made a video about that. We gave our advice for a first time vendor. So you should check that out. I think it's me and Ernie, and it says something about like maximize your profits vending or something like that. Yeah, check that out. Top vendor tips. That's what's called. I think it has some good tips in there. Um, oh, I can hide the comment now. Yeah, no, it was an incredible weekend. It was a really, really, really solid weekend that I can't sounds like huge pillar. Where did this pillar thing come from? Is this another like did Nostalgianomics move on from Cabal to calling people pillars now? I'm confused. What where did this pillar it just kind of showed up, I feel like. I don't know where it actually originated from. Um Pillar is the new Cabal. Well, yeah, but like I understand that, but I don't know where it came from. Like why aren't we using the word Cabal anymore? I wanted to be the part of the Cabal. Now I'm just a pillar? What the hell? I think you went over raw. How do you do your binder? How do you do your binder setups? Do you put anything higher end? Do you put any higher end raw in your case? Yeah, I had a couple cards that were like 100 plus. I had the Greninja and the Carmine from the newer set that I put in the case. But for the most part, I think the highest I had like a $60 card in my binder that someone bought for 50 pretty early on. I had some like 30 some dollar cards uh in the binder, but yeah. 5K sub soon? Yes, 5K sub soon. We're close. We're getting there. We're getting there. PR departments Cabal has a negative connotation. So now they are now pillars. Oh. All right. Well, I guess pillars sounds a bit less negative. I guess Cabal sounded more like people were like hiding things from people, where I feel like pillars are not. But pillars is just weird because it makes you like sound like you're above everyone else somehow. I think that's kind of stupid, but I think one of the amazing things about the Pokemon hobby is that like this weekend was I think the greatest expression of this is there were so many people that went to this event that are obviously way more insanely um like their businesses are way bigger, they have a lot more money, they have insanely um insane collections, they know so much more than everyone else, and yet they just show up and hang out with everyone else. Like the fact that me, somebody who's who just got into this during like the COVID time, has a fairly small business in terms of like flipping and stuff, knows very little compared to a lot of other people who are in this space, can sit at a table and just shoot the shit and make stupid jokes and laugh with Charlie and Zach and Dan and these people who are like way further up in just about every other metric you could think about. Um, and Rusty, it's crazy. Like it doesn't make any sense. But that's what's so great is they don't care. Like they don't care how successful you are in Pokemon. They just want to have fun with people who love Pokemon. So everyone's just there loving Pokemon. We're all at different. Nobody's like above anyone else. It's not like people, the really rich guys go in the other room to talk about rich stuff that and they leave the low lifes in the other room. Everyone just integrates and has fun. It doesn't matter like the size of your business or anything like that. It's just really cool how everyone just integrates because they love Pokemon and they love hanging out and they like being a part of the community. I'm at the kitty table. What's up, Birch? How's it going? Birch, I watched your video about playing the game at the Beer Ski Palooza. That was really fun. I checked that out today. Great video. You guys should check that out. It looked like a fun time. Unless you're Walrus and Nick and you just go to another convention. Hey, I saw the picture of Nick and Z and G, and I would say that they are definitely above everyone else. I saw that picture. They looked like mob bosses in that photo, especially Z. So yeah, I can definitely see that they hold themselves in pretty high regard. Yeah, Birch's Beer Ski Palooza video is very, very good for sure. Are there cats at the table? True. Dan will talk to you about buckets anytime. Dan had to close his ears. Oh, what was Charlie saying? Charlie was saying something at the table, and Dan was just sitting there like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." He was like closing his ears. And I was like, something like Dan's buckets, don't appreciate that kind of talk. Charlie was saying something about like the last thing that you should sell if you're in an emergency is your collectibles, or something like that. Or your collectible investments should be the last things you should sell in the case of an emergency. Something like that. It was funny. We had a good time. There were lots of jokes, and it was good. Charlie's wild. Yeah. What's up, Max? How's it going? Welcome. Don't love dating with the fillers. I'll build a home of cardboard. Charlie has some wild stories. Where was that Nick and James pick? It was in Discord. Need a tier list, a video collection. Is this going to be another call-in show where no one actually calls in? What is up with this? This is a call-in show. Why has nobody called in yet? If you were at Collectacon Charlotte, you can call in. You should call in. What the heck? If you want to. No pressure. If you want to call in. Let's see. Pika Papa said sports cards were pretty stable during the 2009 recession. I have no idea. No idea. Your call-ins are always when I'm working. I said give me 30. Oh, okay, my bad. No, anybody can call in, but especially if you were at the event. Because this is an event recap. I mean, I guess I recap my event, so anyone could call in if you want. And then if people call in who are at the event, I can just ask them about the event. But yeah, anyone can call in. We could talk about anything. As long as it's not scanner talk. Oh my God, I'm so over it. Who cares? Who cares if people can run a CT scan and find something in a box? I don't care at all about the scanner talk. The scanner talk is the most boring shit. It was boring this past weekend because everyone talked about it all the time. It's boring now. It's been boring since it came out. Scanner talk is so boring. But yeah, anybody could call in and chat. Mason can only call in if he's laying on his couch with a cat. True. Sold all my base set packs this weekend because I labeled them as unscanned. I asked Dan if he was going to label them as unscanned because he had some packs. I'm assuming he sold those. He must have sold those packs. 2024 World Skateboard. Dude, the skateboard looks great. I actually really like the island vibe that the World's artwork has for the Hawaiian Worlds. It's going to be really cool. I really like the stuff. I really like it. I like it a lot. I just got CT scan. Turns out I'm 100% weeb. That's a dusted take. Wait, what is that? The World's artwork is good. It's good. It's solid. Wait, what's the? Oh, you mean the skateboard take? Cat is currently snoring. I have a cat that snores too. One of my 2 cats snores. It's pretty cute. It's pretty adorable. But yeah, it should if you want to call in, it should pop up here. Yep. That should be the right thing. Just make sure if you are calling in to use your username as your name. And also you gotta have your video on. If your video is not on, I'll kick you from the thing. And you gotta be relatively known in the place. But guess Mason with an Arcanine plush will have to do. Can we get Thrifty on to talk about whatnotting? Oh yeah, because Thrifty and Chef are whatnotting for Weedle, or like partnering with Weedle to do some whatnotting. It's interesting. Would also like to hear from Birch. Man is insightful. I still want to know what the dusted take was. Call in, but I haven't achieved pillar status yet. You don't need to be a pillar to call in. If you have a question or if you have a topic you want to chat about, like, you can call in. This isn't for a certain person. It's for anybody. So Brandon, how's it going? It's going good. Thanks for asking. It's going good. Oh, damn. So I got some bad news. I got some real bad news. Yesterday, I got bad news. So, as you guys may know, since I made a video recently about it, I have been selling consignment at a local comic book store. And I did mention a while ago that I think 2 years ago when I signed up with him to sell at his shop, that he had mentioned to me that he was struggling. Unfortunately, he is not going to be continuing his shop at the end of the year. So that sucks. So his shop is, I guess, going out of business. And he's looking for other jobs right now. And yeah, it really sucks because I'm not going to have that outlet anymore. That outlet was great. Awesome. Basically completely not managed by me, just sold over time. And I don't really think that there's a place in the area that I can continue doing what I have been doing. I'm not really sure. So I don't know at this point. He apparently put a good word in for me with the building owner. I don't know if that's something that I would even consider right now, although I have recently been hearing some things from different people about how they would help support the business or help, partner in the business, which would be really cool. But I would probably only really do that if the rent stayed where it is, and I don't think that it's going to. I don't know why he would keep it the way that it is, because it's way too cheap. Also, I also heard from the comic book the comic book store owner that the guy might put his own business in the place, which would be like an outdoor sports business. So it wouldn't really fit the whole Pokemon vibe anyway. So I don't know. We'll see. Mason in all caps. Absolutely not. I swear to God. Man, Mason doesn't have the he's got no confidence in me. Mason has no confidence in me. Come on, Mason. Why you do that? But yeah. Going to Austin tomorrow. Get a Pokemon vending machine. I've seen them on malls by me. Surprisingly, a vending machine company from Australia reached out. From Australia? Yeah. Reached out not probably a few months ago now, trying to partner up to like put a bunch of vending machines in America. And I was like, absolutely not for me, because they don't want to do Pokemon vending machines because Pokemon's doing their own vending machines. So they wanted to do vending machines for all the other card games. It's like, well, why would I want to partner to put vending machines in that aren't even going to hold the most popular card game? Like, the other card games are popular, but like Pokemon is like the creme de la creme. If you're not going to have that one, then I don't know anything about the other games. So why would I want to do that? So yeah, not my thing. But yeah, so the comic book store's going out of business at the end of the year. That's really, really sad. Sad for him, obviously. And I'm not gonna have that outlet anymore, which really sucks. So we'll have to figure out. We'll have to just like sell as much as humanly possible between now and the end of the year. Oh, here he is. Hey,
I made it.
What's up?
Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, 1 second. Let me grab my headphones. You can talk to the people.
Okay. How's everyone doing tonight? Yeah, Charlotte was a good time. Java gave you his recap. My voice is not 100% back, so I probably shouldn't be here. But I'm here. I'm here for it. I couldn't resist listening to a recap stream. I love to have them. Birch did call it Dan first. But one weird thing hopping in here, like I've hopped into a bunch of other people's StreamYard stuff. It required me to be connected to YouTube, which I was anyway. So I just had to like click my YouTube channel. But it like took my camera settings all weird. It took me like 5 minutes to get in here because I had to like reconfigure my camera. I've never had that happen before.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. But there must be some setting where you require people authenticate, because I've definitely done it not logged into YouTube before.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to look at that.
That's definitely safer. That's safer. I don't know if you did that intentionally or not, but
no, I don't think so.
If people aren't logged into their YouTube, I know every time I have to do that, it's a hassle remembering my password. I've got a password manager, two-factor authentication, all that good stuff. But anyways, you started talking about the game store thing, and we talked a little bit earlier in Discord. I definitely pushed you not to do it. I didn't push you like, hey, go open an LGS, but I pushed you to consider it. And I definitely think that would make for a fun video. Like, hey, here's what I do now. Here's what this would look like on paper. You have, I think, the least numbers as of today. Obviously, if they double or something crazy, it completely changes the financials of it. But
yeah, I think it would be fun to put together. Like, I've already thought about it in my brain, like, you know, because I'm in that store all the time. So it's like, oh, how would I set it up? What would it need to, you know, look like a game? It's this really small space, so it's not like I have to outfit it like crazy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I probably should just ask the guy, like, what are your plans with the location, and just see if anything's actually on the table before I get ahead of myself. Probably would be the first thing to do.
yeah, that shoot that shot definitely applies here. It's like, worst case, you'll find out that it couldn't happen. But worst case, if you don't ask, is like you see someone else doing it in 6 months or a year from now, whatever it may be. And then you think like, man, that could have been me. Who knows? Somebody might have a game store in there in a year, and they might be all Pokemon, and then you get pushed out and can't have your little consignment Evo type setup. So yeah. I'm not trying to talk you into doing it, but I'm talking you into run the numbers on doing it, because it'd be fun. I actually have, I think it's been on my YouTube video idea list for like a year, but I'm going to make a video at some point, like why I don't intend to open a game store. But if I did, here's what the financials look like. Here's what I would think about that. Here's what I would pivot into doing and have to do to make it make sense.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask, because you were in Charlotte all weekend with everybody else. What were your highlights of the weekend? What did you enjoy the most about the 3-4 days that you were there?
The common theme amongst all conventions is the highlight is never the convention. And that's not to say the conventions aren't a blast, but like this one was a weekend of highlights. I think past Charlotte ones, it's been like it was Rusty's. Rusty's far and above. Rusty's was great people, great time. But like I point to the Steakhouse dinner too. I point to it would probably be like Rusty's and Wonders, and then the Steakhouse dinner below that. And then we had good times at that same bar again, playing bocce, playing darts, playing shuffleboard. It's always the people. It's never the convention. It's never. A lot of times there's good sales. A lot of times there's good buys, but I make good buys and sales from my desk that I'm sitting at right now.
Yeah.
I can't hang out with and engage with, whether we're talking business, which a lot of business talk happened, whether we're talking life, a lot of life talk happened. Just always the best times with the people and the extracurricular activities.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first one where I felt that way. Where like I'm familiar enough with the events now and like the Collectacons and selling and everything where that wasn't like a stressful thing for me. It was just like, oh yeah, that's part of the weekend. But this this was definitely like the holy crap. Like everything took a back seat to just hanging out with everybody and everything else that was happening. Like the show was just like making money at the show is just cherry on top of all the fun stuff that you got to do throughout the entire weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm probably, I think I've fully decided. I had been saying I'm probably not vending Chicago, but I'm not going to vend Chicago at this point. I was gone for a long time. I did New Jersey with my family. That was a good time. But New Jersey, I didn't vend. I had a very good consigning experience with our own Ponga. I'm probably going to sample one of the various 50 people that I know that are vending Chicago and just drop a few slabs at their table, subsidize, or maybe pay off their whole table for the event, and be able to maybe sleep in an extra half an hour. I'm still going to always, as I do, try to minimize sleep because you land and then there's a countdown timer to when you've got to take off. And I always try to get the most out of that time. And I think I did well. I think I did very well with that in Charlotte, but I'm definitely paying for it a little bit this week. I'm actually night shift Dan again this week, so I'm kind of misbehaving right now. My wife actually has like a summer week-long thing that she's doing all this week, where she's got to be in like her normal hours. So yeah, this is the middle of my work shift. As you started, I was just like pre-grading cards, and I've got a submission for all of our favorite 3-letter acronyms ready to go.
Nice.
So I figured I could hop on.
Nice. Yeah, I bought the lot of like 3,000 ultra rares or whatever the other week, and part of me thought about picking out like the cleanest of the popular Pokemon and YOLOing like 25 cards or something to BGS to see if I can hit a couple black labels to pay for the lot, and then just make profit on all the rest of them. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I haven't done BGS since my last submission, and my last submission had 4 black labels out of 12 cards. So maybe I should try again.
I mean, gambling is inherent to the hobby, so it never hurts to throw a little YOLO out there. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's just like anything else. But if you, I mean, we all know what to look for. But sometimes you send that card that you think is black label quality, and they 9.5 it, and then sometimes that same card in a different submission gets that black label. So there's always just enough randomness to like keep you frustrated, but just enough wins to keep you coming back too.
Yeah. Definitely. So for Chicago, you said you'll kind of be in and out. Are you flying in? When are you flying in and flying out? Or what's the plan, I guess?
I'll have to look at flights, and I guess I'll be keeping my ear to the ground on what the extracurriculars are. I'll try to get a feel for like what is the night to be there. With Charlotte, I kind of had this conversation with my wife. Like, yeah, 4 nights is a long time, but I'm like, I have to hit Rusty's. I have to hit Wonders. And then the Steakhouse was just in between. Had it been Friday Rusty's, Saturday Wonders, Sunday Steakhouse, I probably would have been back home Sunday night late and probably missed the Steakhouse. But I actually heard PK's sad story on that. I joked with him earlier in the day. I was like, assume your flight's going to be delayed because so many people's flights have been being delayed. I'm like, just come to the dinner. Just come to the dinner and you'll probably be fine. Very jokingly, not actually trying to talk him into risking like not getting home in time and being in trouble with the family. But in hindsight, that's actually how it panned out. He mentioned that he didn't take off till like almost 1 a.m. or whatever it was.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So definitely a little issue with his flight that hindsight, he could have gotten a lot more EV out of the weekend, right? He could have got another great night, but yeah, I pending what's going on, pending when the big parties are happening, whoever's in charge of all that, I'll be keeping an eye on that. And if it's like, if Friday night's the night, I'll do that. If Saturday night's the night, maybe I'll just come in Saturday morning, head out Monday. Like, I don't know. I think I've done everything before. I've done Thursday to Monday, like I just did, Saturday to Monday. I've done a quick one night or two, some different events. We'll see what else is going on around home too.
Yeah, I think right now, because I booked my tickets already, I think I'm flying in Friday morning at like 10 and leaving on Monday morning and getting back at like 10:30 or something in the morning. So I won't have to miss Monday work day. So that's at least solid. But
nice.
Yeah, should be another fun long weekend. Probably planning to stay. I think I mentioned, but I'm gonna probably stay at the hotel in Chicago because I'm assuming that they're. So the nice thing about Chicago is the airport is literally across the highway from the convention center, and if they choose a hotel that's in the vicinity, like everything being that close is going to be super convenient. Where I feel like in that area, Airbnbs, I'm assuming are going to be further out probably than they can be closer to that like metropolitan area. So I don't know, but maybe there are some that are closer, but I would assume that they would either be pretty expensive or pretty far away from the actual.
My go-to strategy has always kind of been recommended hotel, but like splitting it. I don't, aside from when my wife comes, then it's just me and her. I guess I'm still splitting it, but I'm paying both sides of the split. But yeah, I don't think I've ever been alone in a hotel room. I have always had Nick. Usually it's been Nick. This time it was Ray or the wife. I've always had someone to keep me company. But the Airbnb thing, I guess I did do one last year in Charlotte because the recommended hotels were so far away. I just like, it's like a home base that's usually right there with the hotel. And a lot of times, even though I'm out at the bars till 2 a.m. and I'm only taking a quick nap for 4 or 5 hours, I still just like the recommended hotel because that's where the hotel lobby, trade night, all those things will be. Even though sometimes I don't go to those, even though sometimes I'm going to the Airbnb that other people have booked. Yeah. I've always just used like the recommended as a home base.
Mr. Kite has a question for you, not Pokemon related, but does Dan have any recs for affordable towns to live in upstate New York? I'm on Staten Island right now and rent's too damn high.
There's a lot of them. It depends on what you're looking for. One thing that I've joked about before, like what are people doing in these cities? I don't want to live in cities. I don't want to live in suburbs around a ton of people. A lot of criticisms of like upstate New York, a lot of criticisms about where I am. It's like, there's nothing to do. So I don't know what these people are doing. So maybe if you told me what you were doing, I would advise a certain city over another, a certain town over another. But for me, it's like, we got the post office. We've got the school. Those are the two places of employment essentially. And we've got parks and playgrounds, and we've got theme parks within a couple hours. We've got an airport within an hour that gets us anywhere we want to go. We're right by the thruway, hop on, head anywhere. Like, I really like where I'm at. Not that it's not that I'm putting my full address out there, but my PO box is very public. Verona, New York is a nice little town, but there are a lot of nice little towns all over the place. Grimer says he loves the Finger Lakes. Finger Lakes, beautiful area. I have a buddy who every summer growing up for like a several year span, I would go to Canandaigua Lake. Beautiful, nice, clean lake, great fishing, all that kind of stuff. We would go hang out for a week. There's a lot of good stuff around.
Thrifty says, just a heads up, Airbnb might be rough because it's Chicago Marathon weekend.
I forgot about that. To be honest, with that going on, like having a really tight area that you have to travel through might be probably very bullish on that for that weekend. Not having to Airbnb. I mean, some Airbnb, like, oh, it's only 5 miles from the convention. It's only going to be a 5-10 minute drive, Uber, whatever. Well, if that crosses paths with the 26-mile marathon, I have no idea on what streets they run that. But if you could end up having to go through a really long, winding route to your area if you got to go straight through that, right?
So it looks like Benji has looked at some stuff and said big Airbnbs are all 30 minutes away, which I would probably not do that then because that's pretty far away.
Okay, Marathon is downtown. Collectacon is in the burbs. Definitely something to consider, though. Like
A lot of people are going
I've
to be
heard that a
flying
couple
in for
times.
that probably though. So the airport might be
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, definitely would add a little bit of transit time. I think I heard some people contemplating staying in actual Chicago too. So definitely things to consider if you are gonna do any of that. Might want to book flights sooner though. Yeah, I haven't even really looked at them yet. I probably should look at them soon.
So in terms of sales at the convention this past weekend in Charlotte, what you obviously got bought out Saturday and then you walked around Sunday to see if you could find anything good. What was your experience with the convention? What was the buyout like? What was walking around? Did you find anything good to buy? Or was it just kind of a chill day on Sunday? How did all of that progress and go for you?
Yeah, so I heard about yours, and I've had my interactions with him before. I've sold some to him, and I've not sold some to him. Once you have your first interaction with certain people, it's like, okay, I have nothing for you today, or I have X, Y, and Z for you, knowing how you'll interact with it, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But Cloud's paying 80%, or at least he was on what I had. I know you talked about all the alt stuff. I had things that do well with alt. I had things that are pop 5,000, pop 10,000, where 10 things sell a week, and it's pretty straightforward. Like the buy it now auction spread is very, very tight on cards like that have high pop, high liquidity. So I definitely understand all the disdain towards alt, especially if you have the more niche, the sub 1,000 pop stuff that isn't selling 10 times a week. But we did 80%. Historically, he's a lot of time. We've been 70, we've been 75. I don't think I've ever had him pay that high. And it was all based off my sticker prices, which were like, again, I don't live and die by the actual singular alt value they show. I kind of look at the actual data points and I put it where it feels appropriate. But I do price well. I do price to sell at conventions. So I got 80% on almost everything. I plucked out a couple cards that I knew I was going to be way too high on that I didn't want to take the alt number on. So yeah, having sold everything on Saturday, I opted to just bounce around the convention Sunday. What that turned into more than actually like looking, I kind of did like a speed run down every aisle and then up every row. I kind of walked by almost everything, just really seeing if anything would catch my eye. I was actually looking specifically for gifts for my kids. I ended up buying, there's that one, he was in the back left corner. He's there every time, but the guy that sells Lego minifigures, I could go on eBay, I could go on Alibaba, wherever. I could buy the same things. But he's always got like Mario themed ones, Minecraft themed. I picked up a few of those for them. And then I didn't really find anything else. And it just happened to where like I'd run into Zach and I'd chat with him. I'd run into I'd run into people and I'd be like, I don't really want to look for stuff. I have an easy enough time buying from home. So let me just hang out while I'm here. So yeah, what it turned out to was I hung out for a few hours and then John was going over to Justin's. John was going over to Wonders and I went to give him a hand with unsleeving and card savoring up all that collection that he had bought. So I got some extra time. I got some bonus time at Wonder's house, helping there a little bit, helping Chef get things rolling. But yeah, it was a great weekend. I did buy on Saturday. I don't think aside from the minifigures, I bought anything on Sunday, but I did buy some like great thing about being in person. I mean, you know what you're gonna tend. Let me see if I can find them. I just had them here. I found like some pretty juicy alt arts that should just all be straight 10s unless I get kind of wrecked. But yeah, those just came to my table. Like you got your Gengar, you got your Charizards, you got your Moltres, Lugia, like standard stuff. I know the lighting was terrible on that. Rayquaza. So I hopefully, if everything tends like it should, I'll make $400 or $500 there, maybe a little bit more. And then yeah, the 80% buyout was not like it was good from every angle for sure.
Yeah, I went to a local show recently and bought some alt arts. What did you buy the Gengar for? I haven't checked the prices since I bought mine like a couple weeks ago. I think I paid like 300 for it, and it was pretty 10ish.
Yeah, I paid. He was. So it was two different people that I bought the alt from. One of them was trading towards cards, so I think I gave him 85 or 90, because it's like, I mean, I would have paid 100% TCG player when you get to see it and you are quite sure it's going to 10. But I think I mean, I'm not going to pay more than I need to either. So maybe it was even 85%, whatever that is. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then the other ones, I think I just bought them at like 80% from someone else.
Nice.
Let's see. The Gengar VMAX is showing as 305. So yeah, I probably paid 250-ish or 260-ish, somewhere in there.
Nice.
Or traded, actually. And I think that was a trade into full sticker too. So those ones are always nice when you can trade into your stuff at full sticker.
Yeah, must have. Has that card been coming down a little bit? Are you looking at the TCG player thing?
Yeah,
I think when I looked, it was like 325, somewhere in there.
So the 3 month is like, I'm not going to say straight down, but the 3 month is like steadily down. It was over 400 3 months ago, but the 6 month, it's higher than that. 6 months ago, it was like 200. So
gotcha.
the prior 90 days, it doubled, and then it's given back 25% in the last 90 days.
Gotcha. Interesting. I also bought a Greninja at that show, and I don't know what that card is doing now, but thankfully the Greninja and the Carmine were both, it was like, that was like $350 of the sale that I had to the guy.
Yeah.
And I pulled those cards myself, so that kind of buffered it a little bit, which was nice. But
yep.
Yeah, this card is still, last sold's 285, and 352. That's crazy.
Yeah. The Greninja's going wild. I had a bunch of those in PSA 10 that I had bought. And honestly, a lot of my inventory, like I sold it at 80% to Cloud. A lot of it I bought between 70 and 80%. Like some amount of it I had graded myself, but I'm at a point right now where I'm definitely trying to get to a certain number liquidity wise. I kind of always had a number, and then sometimes big buys will come up, big opportunities will come up, and it's like, okay, temporarily I need to really increase that number. So something came about that had me really seeking significant additional liquidity. So yeah, my goal was to just literally come home with nothing. Further, my goal was to, and what I did was actually, I'm like, Cloud was trying to buy my stuff at like 10 a.m. or whatever. And I'm like, let me sell it full retail. Let me sell it full sticker all day and then buy it all. I think I told him 4 o'clock. And then I was able to kind of like tap out a little early. I was able, because I was a little stressing about the whole Steakhouse thing. Originally, our reservation was for 5. And I would have felt really bad. I would have felt really bad having had it be at 5 and having the first people show up at like 6:30 or something, because the convention didn't get done till 6. But I got in there with Bierski, with Wonder, with Charlie, with a handful of people, so that we could kind of like hold down the fort until everyone else arrived.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Which
did you get? I went with the Kona also. So yeah, I'm not like we talked to the waitress there. And I'm like, I was dead set on, I'm going with something dry aged because I can make a really good ribeye at home. The ribeye looked amazing. I kind of wish I like traded a bite or stole a bite from somebody, but I didn't end up doing that. Bierski though, next to me, he opted to go for the was it Gorgonzola, some kind of cheese the Gorgonzola crusted New York strip. So since he was going for that, I'm like, I'm gonna go for the other one. She said I had no idea what Kona meant. She said it was something to do with coffee. I said, I'm not a coffee guy, so I'm gonna go for the Gorgonzola one too. And she said, no, trust me, it doesn't taste like it's not gonna, even if you don't like coffee, you're gonna like it. And I went for that. I'm glad I did, because I got to take a bite of Bierski's, and I traded him one of mine, and I got both tastes. And to be honest, I think overall I like the Gorgonzola one better because I love cheese so much. But it just tasted like you were eating cheese, right? Like you could have had gorgonzola over gorgonzola over a cheap steak, and it would have tasted really good, overpowering. So with the Kona, I was getting like more of the steak proper with the shallot butter and all that stuff you talked about.
Yeah, the shallot butter was so good.
That dinner was so good. I love that place.
Yeah, it was awesome. That's my first time ever eating there, and it was a great experience. I love that we were able to try like basically one of everything on the menu in like very small bites, so it didn't you didn't feel like insanely full afterward because everything was so small and you shared it like 6 or 7 ways. Yeah, it was good.
That was my first time doing like I'm pretty sure it was my first time doing the fixed menu thing. Not really a fixed menu, but like as you said, you choose the salad, you choose the steak. It was a fixed like array of appetizers, a fixed little dessert platter. But I'd never done that before, and I'm a big like I like the idea of buffets. I like eating a lot of different things. I like a little bit of a lot of things, or maybe too much of a lot of things too. If you go to like a Brazilian steakhouse, but I love the variety. So being able to get that, especially when all the variety is just so many layers of really, really good things. The calamari, all of it was so good.
Yeah, it was excellent. Chef's night was also incredibly excellent as well. It's almost hard to choose which one was better because I do feel like Chef's food was incredible, and the spread that he put out there was also amazing.
Yeah, and Wonder's wife crazy. Too. I mean, she did the rice, she did the fish thing, she did the little hors d'oeuvre. I'm not a tomato guy, so I didn't have any, but it looked really good. If you're one who likes tomato, fresh mozzarella, that little toothpick thing.
I had the salmon one. That was really good, and obviously the rice was very good.
I'm not really a salmon guy, but I figured I'd give it a try, and it was good for what it was. I wasn't in love with it because I'm not a big salmon guy, but like that said, it was still good. And the rice was really good. I had a lot of that. But the steaks
was insane too.
Yeah, I'm not like a big fillet guy. I'm fat's the flavor, and all the trimming that we did on that fillet, which chef instructed me how to do. It's funny. I kind of told him how blasphemous I am. I sometimes I'll buy a whole fillet like tenderloin. I don't have a meat grinder. I don't have the ability to turn all the trimmings into sausage or all the trimmings into hamburger. So when I buy like a whole filet tenderloin, and I know a lot of people do this too, or some amount of people do this too, because I've been places where they cooked it. I just cut the whole thing into steaks with all the extra stuff that's like not really optimal. That just goes into my wife's steak. I make her a filet. I make me a ribeye. In the future, I might have to get to where, and she'd probably really like it if I did, actually trimming the filet properly as I was instructed, so that she gets something a lot leaner, a lot cleaner, where she doesn't have to just feed a couple little grizzly bits to the dog or to me. one of the garbage disposals.
Nice. Yeah, the food all weekend was crazy. It was so good. I'm
a big food guy. Like I have a little highlight like slideshow that I'm putting together from my own photos. I've reached out to a few people. I always take pictures of my food. My wife is big into food too, and she always wants to see like what she missed. And I'll probably have to treat her sometime pretty soon to a really nice meal to make up for all the ones that she missed with that. But like my New Jersey Collectacon one recap, I probably 15 minutes of the hour was like some kind of food that I was eating that weekend on screen, and me just talking my way through that.
Wearing sunglasses while playing baseball was Dan was killing it on the court. The dude is a tower. The rebounds were.
The ball would fall into my hands fairly often. I think I had a couple decent assists. I tried cherry picking a little bit, and that got to me. I should have not hustled as much as I did early on in the game, because by the end, I was a half court player. It's like, I'm down here. When you guys are come back, I'll be here.
The beginning, I was a half court player. It was hot. It was like 96 degrees outside. Yeah, running around playing basketball. Well, you have another person hopping in, Mr. Grimer. What's up, Mr. Grimer?
Not much. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Very well.
How was your weekend? How was your
good.
Charlotte?
Yeah, it was solid. I mean, the vending was whatever. I think we kind of got the Yin Yang Twins plus Jason Page experience, I guess you would say. But I thought the rest of the weekend was really fun, and like I did really well at Edison, so I didn't really care how well I did here. So it's more or less just for fun, just make a little extra cash. So I thought it went all right.
Yeah, I was really surprised that I hadn't seen the Yin Yang Twins do a concert yet at a Collectacon, but that was incredibly fun.
Oh, it was very fun to watch. Right front row, it was pretty solid.
Yeah, it was. Everyone was into it. The whole crowd was. Yeah, if I was Jason Page, I would feel a little like down after almost like trying to force people to do like call and response, and then they go up there and their whole thing is call and response, and the entire place is singing all the songs and everything. Yeah, it's really cool. But unfortunately, these guys were literally right in front of the stage, their section, and I went over there to talk to them just for like a minute or two, and you had nothing blocking any of the noise going straight to your section. So when I was trying to talk to Ray, I literally had to yell to him, and there wasn't even any mute. They were just playing music out of the speakers. So you guys had it rough when it came to the noise. For sure.
Yeah, I think you could say section location does sometimes matter, but I mean it doesn't make or break the con. Like
for 30 minutes,
that's over dramatized for sure. But I didn't mind it. But after a couple hours of Jason Page and music strain your ears, you kind of get a little bit more mellowed out to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot that he does it both days. He does his shtick both days, but then the concert only happens on Saturday. But Jason Page does both days, so.
Well, the Yin Yang Twins were wild too because they sang uncensored. I guess a lot of the worst parts were sang by the audience,
crowd,
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just wild to see like a 35-year-old mom with her 10-year-old kid singing all the words to it. Like it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
A couple of kids up on stage while they're like they're like twerking and whatever they're doing. Like, oh man, it was something a sight to behold, I guess.
Yeah, it was fun. It's just fun when people actually get into it and care about like the performance, because it makes it less irritating that it's taking up time or making it more difficult to sell if you're actually having fun with the experience and the performance. I haven't seen the other ones. Like I know Lit did one this year, and Sugar Ray did one at some point. And are those any good, or should Yin Yang Twins just do all of them?
I've only ever seen Yin Yang Twins. I saw Aoki once actually when I was in Denver last year, and that was really fun. But other than that, it was pretty much only been Yin Yang Twins for me.
Who did it always used to be last year? I don't even remember.
Vanilla Ice.
Oh, that's right. I saw Vanilla Ice several times. Yin Yang Twins. Maybe another, but like that's always, we talked about highlights. That 30-minute segment is always like a low light. That's why my voice oftentimes is like partially or mostly gone, because you have to just yell at people for 30 minutes if you want to hear.
Yeah.
Kind of like what a lot of the city bars are.
All right. Well, we have a question from Kite. Any types on sourcing to grade at shows? I hear people talk about it, but I feel like most people at the shows I go to grade, so they're not going to be leaving any PSA 10 candidates around. So you guys have probably done more buying at shows than I have. What do you think that there are opportunities to walk around to booths and find PSA 10 candidates, or do you think most of the people vending at these shows are grading their PSA 10 potential cards?
Thrifty's got a good answer right there. Like if you come to me and I'm selling raw, if you come to Java, I don't mean to talk down your booth, Java, and make you lose sales.
No, yeah,
but
it's
like,
absolutely true.
Yeah, if you come to someone who has a YouTube and they talk about grading and all this and that, and they have half their tables graded and half their tables raw, there's not going to be any juicers in that raw, very likely. So most of my stuff comes from people walking up to me, randos with binders, as Thrifty said, trade night people with binders. Ideally look for people, and same things apply like on eBay. If 90% of someone's store, 90% of someone's store is graded, and then they have a TCG player. Like right now I have Celebrations Charizard on TCG player. Don't buy them if you want 10s.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good. What do you think, Kramer? Do you do a lot of buying at these shows? Is it mostly people walking up to sell to you, or do you walk around and try and buy stuff?
I think if you're trying to source like at the show as a buyer, not as a vendor, I think like what Thrifty said is pretty accurate. You pretty much have to find vendors that only have raw cards out, or if you're grading stuff that's like lower value PSA 10, but you really like the Pokemon or you think it could go up in the future or something like that, those opportunities might exist. But like if you're looking for like alt arts that are like super popular, the odds you're going to find like rogue PSA 10 copies just floating around in people's cases are extremely low. For me, from my experience, like you're going to find the best grading candidates just from buying people that come up to your booth as a vendor. Like when I was in Edison, I did a ton of buying. I had like probably 2 hours straight where like every other person that came to me just had stuff to sell and it was all good. So I just kept buying. I think Charlotte was a bit slower in that regard, but I find from my experience that if you want to source at shows, you either just buy the entire booth out like 70% and make that play if you're like a streamer, if you have a big storefront or something, or you just go behind your booth and you just have a ton of cash and you just buy people out as they come to you.
Yeah. I think at this local show, because I've had luck, people reaching back out to me after they see me at a local show to want to sell a collection. I think at this one, I'm going to have like a little sign and a little sign up, like a little sign up sheet, almost like and just say, have the sign say, like, if you're interested in selling your collection, like write down your name and email and I'll get back to you after the show. Because I think that a lot of people go to these things, especially local stuff that's just like a Comic-Con that has like a bunch of different, variety of booths and they're just doing it for the day to have fun. They look and they see, oh, this guy does Pokemon. I have a bunch of Pokemon in the basement, but then there's nothing to follow up with later if you have no way to contact you. So I think them giving me their contact information so that I can initiate the contact, I think would be good too. So I'm going to try and do that sort of list and see how many people write down their name and contact and see if any leads can come from that too. We'll see how that works. Mm-hmm. But is there anything that you don't do or haven't done vending at these shows that you'd like to try or you think would be more successful than what you do now? Either of you? Dan, if you want to go first.
I've never really done the binder thing. I know it would do well if I did it, but I'm more looking to move like a certain dollar amount, and I just can't fit in binders. I mean, I guess I theoretically could if I'm bringing like the alt art grading misses or whatever, but but binders I know I could do well with. I just don't do them. I try to get a certain amount of slabs that are getting a certain amount of sealed or whatever that gets me to the number that I'm chasing. But yeah, in the future, maybe I'll change. I feel like in the future, unless I'm setting up maybe with just one case of higher end stuff and then one side, half my table trying to take in consignments or trying to buy more, I feel like that's more what I'm going to be looking at for next year. Because Chicago, I'm not going to vend. There's no other one that I'm vending. I feel like that's going to be more my play moving ahead.
Okay. What about you, Grammer?
I think just going in on binders a bit more and just having a bit more of like an organized system with it. I tried doing value boxes for the first time, just with raw cards at Charlotte, and the amount of people that engage with the binders versus the value boxes, the disparity was pretty large. So like people just like flipping through binders, it feels more natural. I think if you have a bunch of slabs, like a bunch of low-end slabs, value boxes make sense because it's a lot easier to just like flip through them. You don't have to like pick up a giant stack of the cards and like go through them one by one. The slab is a little bit easier to just like flick through one by one itself. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think binders have, for me, historically always done really well. Like I think for whatever reason in Charlotte, I probably had like 6 or 7 different people come up trying to buy playables for their deck for the Pokemon TCG. And if I didn't have my binders, I would have made 0 sales off that. And I had people buying like flat V-Star cards for $10 a pop because it's playable. And it was a nice little addition, I feel like. And I think the main thing is just learning how to position your binders in your booth. So if you're rocking more than like one table, I think what Ray did was really smart. Is he put all his cases on the outside because he had 3 tables, and then like the middle table where he was generally standing as where all his like binders and plushies and stuff was. So that way he has like the ability to manage that, and then all his cases on the outside are pretty safe. So there's like little small things like that you pick up on from vending or seeing other people vend at shows that you could always implement that I would like to always try to get a little bit better at every time I vend.
Cool. Yeah, actually, I saved Ray some, he probably wouldn't have sold them at that anyway, but I saved him some money because he had a value box of like $1 V's and EXs or whatever. And I was looking through them because, at the store, if I can get V's English V's for like 70 cents, I could probably do, fine with them for a couple bucks or whatever. But I pulled out the first like 2 cards, and they were vintage Japanese Watsy hollows for $1. And I was like, Ray, are these actually $1? He grabbed like all of them and was like, no, they're not $1. I forgot that those were in there. But yeah, I should have just been like, he's trying to, just like call him out. He's trying to rip me off.
Started recording.
Yeah, exactly. This fender right here. Oh man. Yeah, it was a fun weekend. What would you say your highlight of the weekend was, Grammar, if you had to choose an event for a highlight?
I saw Jason Page in the hotel Friday night, which was funny. I was in the hotel lobby with Gildry and Luke, and we were just chatting. And like as we're talking, there's like a gala that's letting out, a whole bunch of people coming out there. And like out the corner of my eye, I see Jason Page like walking up the escalator. And I see him, and then Gildry sees him. We both look at each other, and he really wanted to just start singing the Pokemon song and just confuse everybody at the gala. And I would have had like the worst social anxiety if that happened. So that was pretty funny. But then I think the Steakhouse dinner was probably my highlight. I wasn't able to get to Wonders because my flight set up, but the Steakhouse dinner was awesome. It was really cool. I sat with like a table full of pillars, so that was a bit of an interesting experience. I was with Wonder, Dan, Bierski, Gildry, and then Charlie, and that was pretty fun. I had a good time there. Ate really well.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that happened during the weekend. Did you guys have any? What was the thing that I think Ray asked us to our table, and we went around the table during the dinner? But it's a good question. Did you guys have any weird requests? Did people come up asking you for something that you were like, no, and you like hadn't heard it before, or did you just have stuff that was asked about that you didn't have? What were some of those things?
I think I don't know if it was just our location or what, but I think I've had the most like weird requests I've ever gotten at a show. Like I had people asking for Kingler cards, people asking for Licky cards. It was like the most obscure Pokemon you could think of. I had people coming up to me trying to complete like random sets that you would never hear someone normally come up to you and try to complete. Like I had someone looking for like EX Sandstorm hollows and reverse hollows, and I happen to have a stack of them. So it's like, oh, here's a stack of hollows. He's like, all right, I'll pay you full sticker on all of them. I was like, sweet.
Yeah.
But it's like it was just a bunch of random like weird one-off questions. That was like super niche. Yeah.
Yeah, I had someone come up and ask if I had any Aurorus cards, and I responded like, is that a Pokemon? Because I think it's like one of the fossil Pokemon, dinosaur-looking Pokemon, right? But
yeah, from Gen
I can't even think of an Aurora. Like I think Aurorus, and I don't think of a single Pokemon card that comes to mind. Like I don't know if that Pokemon's ever gotten like a secret rare or anything in the past. But yeah, they were like, "Oh, my favorite Pokemon's Aurorus. Do you have any Aurorus cards?" And I was like, "No, sorry." But I also had quite a few people asking for Magic. Do you guys sell Magic? Yeah, asking about the section. Like, oh, does this section sell Magic? Does this section sell Lorcana? Just a lot of like non-Pokemon related questions about different TCGs. What about you, Dan?
I don't think I had any standout things. I did only get half the vending time, so I guess I missed all of Sunday for getting any of those requests. But no, like I had a pretty like uniform type of inventory. I had like a lot of alt arts, and I had a little bit of other like Japanese stuff and whatever. But a lot of people just asking for like the default things. Like I didn't have a Moonbryon, but they saw all the alt arts. They asked about that. They asked about a Blaziken. They asked about the big hitting alt arts that I didn't happen to have. But no, mine was kind of like boring in that it was pretty themed one way, and I guess the question stayed with the theme. Usually I do though get like one off the wall. Like do you have any just random one that you never think of? I don't think I really had that this time.
I definitely had quite a few species collectors. Like there was a a Blaziken guy that I sold him a mid-era Blaziken PSA 10. There were a lot of evolutions. Like I don't mean for this to be like a sexist comment, but if you have a lady walk up to your booth that's buying Pokemon cards, there's a 99% chance that she's looking for evolutions.
Yeah.
That just happens all the time. But yeah, evolutions are super popular. Yeah, I think I sold pretty much a little bit of everything. People trying to finish like art rares, like art rare sets, um, stuff like that. We got another question from Kite. You guys think the popularity of Pokemon has anything to do with the popularity of alternative currency asset classes like crypto, for example, but also collectibles, antiques? I did have one, I think it was a vendor. Apparently he took a payment in crypto and then he was going around to other vendor booths trying to get rid of his crypto. So he was like, hey, if I buy a bunch of slabs, can you take payment in crypto? And I was like, I don't do anything with crypto. So
I
no.
think
Should have sent it to me.
I think the Bulbasaur took a crypto payment because he came up to Sterling, who I was vending next with, and asked if he took crypto. So I've never heard that one before, but I guess someone was out there wheeling, dealing Bitcoin or something to buy Pokemon cards. So
Yeah, I don't know. It's the only time I think the only time at any con that anyone's ever gotten like visibly frustrated or mad at me or someone I'm vending with was a crypto guy. And he went up to Jake at Card Party and he was like, I think it was like a $40 card that his son wanted to buy. And he's like, oh, can I pay in crypto? And Jake was like, no, we're just doing cash. I don't take crypto for cards. And he was like, and then he started going into the whole spiel of, well, this is how you set it up. And this is why crypto is better than Pokemon. And it's a good investment and like the whole freaking spiel. But Jake just kept saying, no, I'm not interested. No, I'm not interested. And then he started visibly getting frustrated. And then he finally paid in cash and he just like huffed and walked away. And it was like, oh man, people are really passionate about the crypto.
Yeah. I took it before. I don't think I ever took it on my own behalf, but I took it once for Peloton Pokemon and then Crystal Pokemon. I took it for them at Orlando like 2 years ago. I pay out some consigners in it from time to time. I've bought some collections in it just like over the internet. But yeah, overall it's not too common of a convention thing. But the way that it works and kind of towards the question, when it's higher, generally more people are talking about it. I guess it's good, like if people have it, that they're trying to buy stuff with it, because that means they're essentially selling when it's high, selling when it's being talked about, right? Whereas a lot of times you see people trying to buy high. If they're trying to buy in crypto when crypto's high, that's at least them selling it. So I will give them that. But usually when I take payments in that, I'm just turning it back into USD immediately. But I definitely think those things will loosely tie together. If crypto is super hot, a lot of times, a lot of those alternative asset classes will kind of go up to some extent in unison.
Gotcha. Walrus with his questions. Grimer, which Olympic gymnastics event are you most likely to take gold in?
That's a tough question. I don't know. Probably the trampoline, but I don't know. That's a tough one.
I'm gonna say
I like the uneven bars as well. That looks really fun, where you're like swinging around and flipping upside down. I used to do that as a kid a little bit, so I could totally get down with that.
Uneven bars actually, like 40 years ago, I feel like it looked so much cooler. A lot of these sports, like whenever the Olympics comes up, I find myself watching some like old YouTube content on the Olympics and all that. Most sports are significantly more cool, higher, like faster, higher, better in most ways. But uneven bars are one of the ones where a lot of the moves that they used to do 40 years ago are banned now. So they're not even allowed to do them. Yeah. I know like figure skating, they've banned certain moves they used to do. Like you can't do a backflip anymore. You can't do a certain kind of a backflip. I don't really know how it works, but watch the 50 years ago, 40 years ago, watch some of the winning uneven bars routines. In my opinion, they're way better. Vintage beats modern in uneven bars, but almost every other sport, modern beats vintage.
Yeah, I think it would have to be floor routine because I don't have any of the skill set possible to keep any sort of balance in any of these other things. So
way too much arm strength. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would just give me like something to swing around and I'll just
the ribbon thing.
What movie is it? Is it Will Ferrell does that in some movie?
The
That sounds familiar.
Oh,
sounds
it's
very
Will Ferrell,
familiar.
and it's the guy from Napoleon Dynamite, isn't it? They do like, is it Blades of Fury? Oh,
Probably.
I don't remember. But yeah, I feel like they do a funny floor routine thing at some point. Blades of Glory, that's what it is. Blades of Glory.
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Pokemage has a question. It was nice to meet you guys IRL. Is it weird for you at all when viewers come up to talk? What do you think?
I was Googling quickly. I think it might be Old School, actually. The movie that he did that in.
That sounds right. Old School.
Anyways, onto this one. It was nice meeting you too, Pokemage87. I think there's kind of a meme. If Brad was in here, he'd mention it. But I've definitely had an awkward interaction or two. I'm definitely more of an introvert overall. My wife will say I'm not. I think I definitely am, though. On that spectrum, I lean more towards introvert. So there's been times where people came up to me and they were just like, hey, I watch your YouTube videos. And I'm just like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't know what to say there. And then my wife watched me do that once. And she's like, what are you doing, dummy? Just say like, oh, thank you. I appreciate you watching. I remember one time too, I asked like, oh, well, like, thank you. Cool. Well, what do you go by? And then they were just a lurker. They never comment. They never engage, which is fine. But I don't ask their username because they might not have one. They might not have one that you'll know. So I've just defaulted into I appreciate you watching, and then find some way to pivot that into how's your convention going, whatever it may be. So I'm introverted enough that I need like a pre scripted response. Yeah, like I need to be programmed with a proper prescripted response to handle that social situation.
Yeah, I feel like it always takes me by surprise because it just, especially, I mean, when people come up to the booth and they're like, hey, I'm this, nice to meet you. I watch all your content and stuff. Like, that's really cool. When you're just like walking around or something and then all of a sudden somebody like stops you and is like, oh, hey, like that's always like, well, what? Like, but yeah, it's super awesome. I think he was in here before. Joaquin came by the booth. I took a picture with him, and then Bierski and Justin were watching my booth while I went to the bathroom, and then he came over to the booth and he took a picture with Bierski and Justin and like the whole crew, and it was cool. So yeah, it's always cool. It makes me come away feeling like more energized to make more content, and like because I know that people are watching and people are getting something out of it, and so it's inspiring when it happens, I guess, to want to do more and be better. But yeah,
it always does feel really good. Obviously, I'm a little bit over 5,000. You're gonna hit 5,000 really soon. It's really good feeling to hear from one of the dozens of people who decides to watch our videos. It can get lost in the space of social media, big numbers, PokeRev type numbers. But it's still really, when you think about it, when you put it into the context of, if I get 1,000 views on a video, K through 12, that's everyone in my entire like school. That's a big number. That's a big number when you think about it. And it's always really good to just hear positive things about you. And every convention I hear at least a couple stories like, hey, I grew my business from this to this. I decided to go into a business selling some stuff on eBay, and like your content helped me. Your content inspired me to some extent. Hear that at least a time or two every convention, which is nice.
Yeah, I think my graduating class was like 134 people. So it's crazy to think that like some of my videos get like 10 times that amount of people. And then you think about like the day you graduated, how many people were in the auditorium, and you're like, oh, damn, times that by 10. And that's the amount of people that watch my videos. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. My entire zip code is 1,363 people.
There you go. Oh man.
So yeah, like everyone, and that's like where I come from. That's not a city block. That's many square miles. All the area that my post office services is. I get that on a lot of videos, which is wild.
Thrifty says, Dan, a bad meat at Collectacon floor. Only fun after 4 IPAs.
Not wrong.
She's not lying. I think the introvert extrovert spectrum really tips towards the extrovert. Definitely a little bit of social lubrication with the IPAs.
Let's see. Hoodoots taking advantage of the buy E coupon. Good idea. It's like 20% right now. Hayden has a question. Do you think the increase of IRL events and vendor POV videos have had a noticeable impact on online sales and prices? I don't know. Probably not, because the amount of people that are actually, well, it could probably not a big change, I would say, because the amount of people that are going to any of these events is a small percentage of the amount of people who are actually buying. It could inspire more people if they're like, oh, Collectacon's in town, let's go check that out, and then they get back into Pokemon or something like that because they see how cool it is or whatever. Like, I'm sure that happens a lot, but it's probably pretty negligible in the grand scheme of things, I would think. But the content side, maybe, like the vendor POV videos, those are popping off right now, like tens of thousands of views on a lot of those videos. So that stuff could definitely inspire people to come back in. It's definitely hitting more of a market. But yeah, what do you think, Grimer?
I think I have a bit of a hot take here. I think this is mostly what you said is mostly true. I do think there are some small like counter examples though. Like I do think the ponchos, for example, excluding the Mario and Pikachu one, which I think are actually like cool cards with good art. I think the majority of the ponchos are inflated through Collectacon and vendor POV content, because you see a lot of the same people going around buying the same ponchos or selling the same ponchos over and over again. And I feel like the buyer pool for that outside of the people that attend Collectacon is probably like, again, it's probably bigger than what we think it is, but it's not giant. And I do think that like the constant sale of these and putting them in vendor POV thumbnails and like crazy buyouts involving these cards, I think that tends to keep those prices up a bit higher. Like, I don't know if they're going up or down because I don't engage with that part of the hobby at all, but I do think they feel pricey to me. And I think just by the sheer amount of times I see people like sell them or buy them in these videos, I tend to think that kind of just naturally increases the demand for them.
I think you guys covered that well. I agreed largely with everything Java said. And then I think that's an interesting wrinkle you threw in there. Like, it is a common thing. Bulbasaur will throw in, like, I made a joke with him in his comments once about how 4 or 5 conventions in a row, he bought and sold out of all his Moonbreons. And the next convention, it was like $100 more. That was when it was running from like 800 to 1400. Not that his videos caused that to happen, but like, tens of thousands of people watching the video, they see it, they hear it, and those ponchos all over the thumbnails, as you said. I think, I largely agree with that take too.
Yeah, I think the ponchos just have mid art, by the way. I don't think they're that cool. Like, I think there's much better like niche, like one-off or like exclusive promos. Like, I think the Art Academy cards, for example, are way more interesting, just in my opinion. But again, everyone has their own preference with like the cards they like, the cards they collect. So I'm just one man that collects Grimer and Muck, so I don't know how much my opinion really carries weight.
Yeah, I mean, I hard agree with you there on extra copies aside. 100 copies of a card, you're not going to get the Pikachus for the same price you can get the ponchos, but to get any Art Academy card, and I say this as somebody who owns several, so I'm not trying to pump my own thing here, but the Art Academies relative to the ponchos feel undervalued. That's why I own Art Academies. That's why I don't own ponchos. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do occasionally buy them at 80%, 85, 90%. I'm very comfortable that they'll go for a margin for me. But yeah, I like that take.
There's a lot of other like cool niche things. Like, I think a couple years ago, I bought a random collection on eBay that had like Trainer Deck B cards in it. And those are probably more rare than like the ponchos and have more like historical significance to the hobby. And it's like, I'd rather own that personally than the ponchos myself. Again, I just also collect raw more than I collect slabs. Like, I don't care for black labels at all. So again, that's just another preference thing of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in defense of the ponchos, and I know you caveated to leave out the Mario and Luigi ones, but if I had to choose ones that I think are unique and that have really cool art, and the crossover is one of the biggest crossovers of IPs on cardboard, it's the Mario Pikachu ponchos. So I think in that way, I really like those cards. So maybe someday. I do think the Mario Pikachu is probably my grail. Because I just really love the combination of the two and the way that they did that crossover. Hopefully they do it again someday. But
hopefully we'll get that Super Smash Brothers set.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be sick. I saw some of the cards you graded, Java. Some of those old Melee cards. Those are super cool.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I had another question. I'm gonna have to think about it. Let's see. Grimer, if you could regulate one team in the Premier League, which would it be?
I'm assuming he means relegate. I think
Relegate,
that's the
yeah.
correct word. And
Yep.
I'm a Man City fan, so again, I've won the title quite a lot in the last decade. I happened to start watching the Premier League the year they won it the first time in like our lifetime, because they won it in the 60s or whatever a couple of times. That doesn't count. I'd probably just relegate Chelsea. They spend like over $1 billion on like 20-year-old kids from all over the world, and then they just finish middle of the table. Like, they don't know what they're doing on the business side of things. Their owner's American, who owns the Dodgers. They also don't win anything. So I feel like just got to hold them back a little bit and force them to rethink his strategy would be a good call.
Nice.
I'm not a big soccer guy, but I really like the whole relegation promotion dynamic they have there. Like, if you get last, you are out, you are gone. I've talked kind of jokingly because it wouldn't really work functionally, but I've talked about adding that element to like a fantasy football league. The thing is, you would need like an under league to relegate people into. But yeah, that's an awesome dynamic. Like, perform or get out.
Oh, what I was thinking about was we were talking about populations, I guess, of like ponchos and stuff and how they're pretty high, but they're still expensive. One of the things that I've been noticing recently doing the top flips videos is a part of the top flips videos is that I put the population in there of the cards. It's crazy to me because normally I wouldn't pay attention to it, but there are cards that I'm selling, popular Pokemon, PSA 10, that are like pop 20, and they're like a fraction of like a PSA 10 Moonbreon or whatever. That's like what, 40,000-50,000 in the pop now or something, or is it 10,000 in the pop maybe, or it's way up there.
Yeah, between 10 and 15, I think.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy when I look them up and it's like, oh, PSA, population, Crobat, Hollow, Team Rocket Returns, 20. It's like, great. I probably shouldn't have sold that. Like, for pop 20, maybe I should have held on to that possibly. But yeah, it's just wild to see the difference.
Yeah,
in some of these cards and pops and their prices and stuff, but I know that the pops aren't everything. Demand is very important, but sometimes it's just crazy to be like, there's only 20 of these in 10 that exist, and somehow it's so much cheaper than this other card. But
it's interesting because I think on both extremes, a lot of cards that are super low pop and getting a massive premium for that will age quite poorly. And I think a lot of the cards that are super high pop will age quite poorly too. So I think on both extremes, you'll really see some interesting stuff. Couple things that I'll point to. I graded the third Yanma from Neo Discovery, PSA 10 first edition. It was an 8 or a 9 that got lucky, had a good day. And I sold it for like $2,300, I believe. And this was like 2017, $2,300 or whatever year it was. It was an obscene price point. And I think the card like 6X'd or something. I think the card at its peak was like above 5 figures. So it did well. But relative to a lot of the other stuff, relative to a lot of the stuff that didn't have that crazy PSA 10 premium, it didn't do as much, especially during like the height of the 2020, 2021 boom. And then another thing I want to add, I've been here for 10 years now, and I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head because I was never the guy buying them. I was one of the guys selling them. But like I just sold last week on Fanatics consignment, complete PSA 10 non-hollow set, first edition, base first edition, all the 9 hollows and then 10 non-hollows. I remember when Computer Search was over $1,000. I remember when last was over $1,000. A lot of those trainers, those rare trainers, were like low pop, very low pop relative to overall. The main reason being people just weren't grading them yet. People weren't grading them at the time because the money wasn't worth it. And a lot of those cards are a few $100 now. There are some exceptions. There are some, but imagine buying a card in 2016, 2017, before the whole world changed and everything went nuts. And then imagine several years later, that card is actually lower. Like most cards in the hobby are not lower from like 2014 to 2016 to today. But some of the few that are things that were artificially low pop. Not really artificially is the wrong word, but were low pop due to the times. Yeah. And people really got, if you were investing in that, if you were collecting and that whole thing, but if you were investing in that because it was low pop, you got wrecked. You got wrecked through the population growth.
When I first started grading a lot of mid-era Japanese, that was what I kind of focused on when I first started doing the whole business side of it. Some of those PSA 10s were like $300-400. Now are like 90 to like 120 for the same reason. It's because at the time there weren't that many being graded, and now a ton of people are grading mid-era Japanese because the margins were there. But now I do feel like at a certain point, so many people are going to be grading mid-era Japanese that at a certain point it's going to be difficult to actually find those mid-era cards in the that mint condition that everyone's looking for, because mid-era is mid-era. Like, they didn't print that much in the mid-era in comparison to like the modern era or whatever, just because there weren't as many people. So I don't know. It's all very interesting. It's one of those things that it's always going to be a question of, how much is actually out there.
I think what's interesting too with like the mid-era Japanese, the sealed product just doesn't exist. Like, you can find maybe like a random mid-era Japanese pack at like a Collectacon, but you're never going to find a box at a Collectacon. Like, maybe they exist in Japan and we just don't know it, and there's just massive whales over there hoarding tons of boxes, which is probably the case to some extent, but like, you're not going to pull these cards from packs anymore. And like the pack fresh condition, I don't know off the top of my head how good it is for like mid-era Japanese, but Japanese tends to be pretty decent. Yeah. I come from like a Magic background, and like vintage Magic, like vintage Yu-Gi-Oh as well, for example, pack fresh condition is like PSA 7. So it's like, when I look at the low pop stuff in like vintage Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, like some of the first edition, like OG sets, there's cards there that are like popular, super iconic to the anime, into the TCG, that have like 50 PSA 10s ever graded. And like, there is still sealed product out there, but the odds of you getting a 10 from a pack fresh, like Legend of Blue Eyes pack, or like you go to like Magician's Force, which I think is one of the sets that's known for having horrible print quality, like, you're just not going to rip a pack and then grade a 10. It's extremely hard. So it's like, for me with low pop stuff, it has to be, you have to have like a reason for it to continue to hold value. If it's just low pop and expensive because it's low pop, I feel like that isn't like the best argument. But if it's like part of an iconic set, or if it's an iconic Pokemon, or like the art's really good and people are just sleeping on it, there's still totally an argument there for the prices to stay reasonably high, even if people start grading it more. But it's very much just like a case-by-case thing.
Yeah. Dan, I have a question for you. Do you think it's harder today to get a PSA 10 out of a vintage pack than it was when you first started?
So the whole 2 cert versus 4 cert versus...
I'm just curious.
I think they're definitely doing a little bit of gatekeeping on like WotC specifically. I don't subscribe to the whole, or ascribe to the whole idea of every 4 cert is like, some people just literally won't buy 2 certs wholesale. A lot of product was being ripped at that time, so there are a lot of super clean cards in that era. But like, just if you take the last 20 base first Charizards that were publicly pulled, most of them were probably graded with PSA. And what did we get? 1, 2, 3 PSA 10 base first Charizards in the past like 5 years. And I actually I talked to Gary a little bit in Charlotte. I talked to him a fair bit more in New Jersey, actually. And I ran into Ed. I was talking with Gary and E Birdman, King Pokemon, for anyone who doesn't know who Gary is. But between the two of them, they kind of looked at their records, and they looked back at their archives. They graded like I'm probably going to say the wrong number here, but something obscene, like 50 or 60 of the base set first edition Charizards. They were all pack fresh, pulled by them immediately into a penny sleeve card saver, even back then. But if they were to pull and grade that many again, it's extremely likely that less of them would 10. Do I think it's impossible to get them? No, clean cards will generally still have higher likelihood of getting a 10. But overall, if I were to do exactly what I did back in 2014 to 2016, ripping jungle boxes, ripping fossil boxes, I probably would have a lower 10 rate. Not 90% lower. I think there's some percentage to attribute to it. I think a lot of people skew more towards like it being more drastic than it is. But yeah, that just becomes what multiplier you'd put on it.
I saw on Instagram, I think it was PokeRev, but some people were posting like looks back on things that they did like years ago on Instagram stories today. And I think PokeRev posted one, but it was like just a massive mound of PSA boxes and then some booster boxes across the top. And he basically ripped a bunch of these vintage boxes and sent every single card to PSA. And he said that a lot of cards were Pop 1 from those boxes that he graded at the time, which I think was really cool. Yeah.
I remember when he was doing that. I was doing the same thing at a much, much smaller scale. I thought he was pretty crazy for grading everything, and that would have been a significant portion of the money I was playing with at the time. So I never went for it. But yeah, he was doing it big. I mean, he's still doing it big today, just a different thing in a different way.
Yep. Quick question for me. How well did Zelda cards do? Would you bring the Interplay stuff to the next con? So the Zelda cards did what I thought they would do. None of them sold, but there were a lot of people that saw them and were like, "Oh my God, Zelda cards!" So that was kind of my goal, was to like put them in front of people and have them see that they exist, essentially. And maybe that night they went out to eBay and took a look and saw what was available or how expensive the boxes are, or you start somewhere with them and you can hopefully build up, some sort of buyer pool after that. I've done pretty decently with, they sell slowly, but there's good margin on the 10s. I think the 10s are pretty hard to grade for the most part, but they've been doing pretty decent. They didn't do very well at the convention, but a lot of people saw them and thought they were very cool. Pole Father, how's it going? I also saw this. I saw Peak had another baby today, so shout out to him. Congrats. On the third child, I think is what he put in his post, which is that's big. It's awesome. Otherwise, guys, I think it's probably we can let Dan get back to work and I'll go to bed. And
I'm gonna be tapping out soon if we're not ending anyways. But
yeah, I'll probably end it here. I appreciate you two hopping on though. It was great seeing you again, Grimer, this weekend, and of course Dan, it was great seeing you as well. And I hope you guys have a great night. I hope everyone enjoyed this little recap. I'll post pictures and stuff in Discord and maybe Instagram of the stuff that I have from the weekend. Got some like group photos and some photos of food and stuff like that. So we'll post some stuff throughout the week. I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot of content from everybody about the weekend here coming up. But yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'll end it here. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, chat.